You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I am back. Rodrance for Black and White Sports 2. Well, it's kind of funny how things work out and turn out. But it seems the Houston Texans may, in fact, pass on a quarterback with the number 2 overall pick. I think many people just assumed it was going to be Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, 1, 2, depending on. Like if Bryce goes first, C.J. goes second. If C.J. goes first, Bryce will go second. Well, only one of those is true, it looks like. It looks like if the Panthers do opt for C.J. Stroud, then yeah, the Houston Texans will absolutely run the pick in, call the guy, and be like, we're taking Bryce Young. They love Bryce Young, okay? But they've got real reservations about C.J. Stroud. And what they are concerned about is his representation. And what I mean by that is I'm talking about his agent. And they are concerned. And it's amazing that this quarterback is still haunting the Houston Texans, but they are concerned about the connection with the agent, C.J. Stroud, and DeShaun Watson. Now, as we know, DeShaun Watson forced himself out of Houston. Word has it, he forced a lot of things. But Kyle McNair just wanted him the hell off the team. A lot of people don't know that. Okay, when the accusations started surfacing, he was telling Nick Caserio, I want this guy off the team. And I think it was starting to become a bit of an issue between Nick and Kyle McNair because Kyle McNair is very religious. Jack Easterby was still in the house. He's not there anymore. But you get the point. Not only that, but you had C.J. Stroud. I believe this was at the Combine. Saying the following, and a hell of a lot of people took note of it.
One of the reasons I wore number 7 was because Michael Vick. So he inspired me not only just to be athletic and use my athleticism, but as a black quarterback to stay in the pocket and throw the ball. And that's something that he.
Why do you have to bring up your race? By the way, DeShaun Watson, it was supposedly race, even though I kind of thought it was bullshit. Race was what made him want out of Houston. Remember, he wanted to play for a black quarterback, and then he proved he was full of shit when the Texans, hired a black quarterback. He just wanted out of Houston.
He was very underrated, and then I looked up to DeShaun Watson a lot as somebody I feel like I have a similar playing style to, and then Joe Burrow, being able to create.
Okay, so he mentioned DeShaun Watson. Joe Burrow, I can get. But DeShaun Watson, you look up to DeShaun Watson, you can bet that has raised some red flags in the Houston Texans office. So, Albert Breer of SI dropped this nugget yesterday. Would the Texans take Stroud at number 2 if Young is gone? This was from his mailbag. This guy, John, he tells John, this is an excellent question and one that could shape the rest of the top 10. And I think it's a conversation that the Texans themselves are having now, and one they haven't come to a final decision on, you might say. It says, but the Texans have to take one now, ! Do they? Let's look at the history of the guys in charge. General Manager Nick Caserio has been in the NFL for 22 seasons. Over that time, over all the drafts he's been a part of, the highest his team has drafted a quarterback was 62nd. That pick was Jimmy Garoppolo. Davis Mills, who was the Texans' 66th 2 years ago, would be second on that list. Meanwhile, new coach DeMeco Ryans, over 6 years in San Francisco, saw one quarterback taken higher than that. The Niners got to 3 NFC title games with quarterbacks other than Trey Lance. That's why I don't think Caserio and Ryans will reach on a guy that they're not 100% sold on with the second pick. Both guys have seen teams built in other ways, both have seen teams find quarterbacks in other ways. This is somewhat surprising, but I don't know if they are still as high on Davis Mills as they were, but Davis Mills looked really good the last 6 games of the season before last, and they thought Davis Mills was their franchise quarterback. And, of course, last year he played wasn't nearly as effective as they thought he was going to be. But maybe, just maybe, the Texans believe that he still got starting quarterback potential. I don't know. I think everybody thought this was a slam dunk. Now, you might be like, what's up with DeShaun Watson? This is what's up with DeShaun Watson. C.J. Stroud's agent, David Mulugheta, is DeShaun Watson's agent. Okay, and in case you don't know, the Texans have had to deal with this guy a lot. All right? Anytime an agency is called Athletes First, oh boy. David Mulugheta is a lawyer and designated agent of C.J. Stroud and 42 other NFL players. He is a versatile, hardworking sports agent representing NFL players since 2020. His clients include, but aren't limited to, Jalen Ramsey, DeShaun Watson, Budda Baker, Michael Thomas, A.J. Terrell, and Kyle Pitts. And I think he's also Aaron Rodgers' agent, but I'm not exactly sure. No, the company, Athletes First, also represents Aaron Rodgers, but he's not Aaron's agent himself. So, and he's got a long-ass list of clients. He does. But a couple of these guys have forced themselves or wanted to force themselves off of their team. Okay? So, he's C.J. Stroud's agent, and it's got a lot of people in Houston right now asking the question, and this got brought up on a couple of podcasts I listened to. It's got people asking the question, is C.J. Stroud just going to want to trade out of there in 3 years? Okay, and I think that is the thing that makes them nervous. Now, this is fullpresscoverage.com, and they're talking about the fact the expectation for most people is that the team will undoubtedly select a quarterback with the number 2 overall pick. Could that still happen? Absolutely. However, there may be some merit to them passing on a passer and not selecting a quarterback in that top spot. If that were to happen, what recent trends or headlines support that being the case for the Texans? Houston truly only interested in one of the top quarterbacks available. In other words, Bryce Young was their guy, and I think they like Bryce's demeanor. There's no doubt. Bryce Young's skills, for the most part, are very damn good. Okay? There are more concerns, like I've heard Michael Lombardi come out and say he's concerned about C.J. Stroud. He's concerned about the fact that he was in an offense where you look over to the sideline to get the play in. Just that offense in Ohio State is so far removed from a pro-style offense, whereas obviously Bryce Young had Bill O'Brien, who is the offensive coordinator for the Patriots now. So Bryce Young is certainly more familiar with what you would consider to be pro-style principles, and I always think that is a big, big deal, okay? So it goes on to talk about that they're focused on Bryce Young, and they might not want a rookie quarterback, and they do, by the way, this is a franchise that once took Mario Williams instead of Reggie Bush, when everybody thought Reggie Bush was the slam dunk number 1 overall pick. So the organization's got a history here. So enter in Lance Zierlein. Now he's in Houston, okay? I mean, he's a draft expert, but he's also in Houston, and he really, as you can imagine, is locked into the Houston Texans. NFL.com draft expert Lance Zierlein was asked that exact question, and he believes it's a foregone conclusion. If Young is there for the Texans at 2, he will be the pick. But what if the opposite happens? the Panthers take Young, and Stroud is there for the Texans. Should we assume the Texans would draft Stroud in this scenario? This is where things get tricky. In theory, yes, but Zerline isn't convinced that Stroud would be a no-brainer selection based on the Texans' dealings with Stroud's agent, David Mulugheta, who represents DeShaun Watson. And we all know how that played out. Watson got a huge payday from the Texans and then forced himself out of town, leaving the Houston Texans with a salary cap mess. And that's what Lance Zierlein said about it, and then I heard about it again. I believe it was on Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, but I'm not entirely sure that's where I heard it, but I think they brought it up again. In fact, I heard it this morning. And I was like, oh, I never even considered the DeShaun Watson aspect in all of this, and the fact that since he's represented by Watson's agent, and they had so much trouble with Watson, that the theory might be, you know what, we're good. We'll just pass on C.J. Stroud. It's crazy, but here we are. What are we, more than a year past DeShaun Watson getting traded out of Houston? And DeShaun Watson is still having not only impacts on salary caps, but he's impacting potential quarterback decisions they make in the draft because of his representation. Not to mention, he come out and just publicly admitted he looks up to DeShaun Watson. I got to be real. I had a real problem with that when he come out and said it, because I was like, is your decision-making skills, am I supposed to believe that they're elite and that just came out of your mouth? That's a hard sell for me. You look up to a total scumbag. Interesting. Okay. Guys got to get better heroes. They do. Patrick Mahomes, nothing off the field. Two-time MVP. What are we doing? Two-time Super Bowl champ. He did bring up Joe Burrow, and look, I liked Michael Vick as a player, but he's responsible for a hell of a lot of dogs dying. It's crazy as hell. It's weird. Some of the people that these young people value as the people they look up to, and maybe that in itself is a problem with society right now, frankly. Tell me what you think, Black and White Sports 2 supporters. Did anybody see this coming? DeShaun Watson affecting what the Texans will do in the draft? Wow. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.